Good afternoon, everyone. Can I start?
Good afternoon, mate.
Are there any more to join? Hmm? Do you have any more members to join to the class? Your friends, are they joining or can I start?
Shall we start? Mate?
Okay, thank you. Right, so today, this is what we have to cover. Sourcing and supply chain relationship. So I'll basically cover, it's like quite a broader topic, but I have picked up the main key points that we must discuss under this, I think you already know what is sourcing, but my plan today is to talk about a bit of like sourcing strategies and then supply relationship, right? So this will be the content of the lecture. So understand different sourcing strategies and what is sourcing. Of course, I'm very sure that you've been taught many times. And reasons for outsourcing. What is outsourcing? Of course, not sourcing, outsourcing. And then reasons for outsourcing. When you look at the relationship between the outsourcer and outsourcing, right? So what kind of relationship stages that you can see there? And then we will move in to discuss about supply chain integration, because we want to discuss about supply chain relationship as well. But then without talking about supply chain integration, we cannot understand. I mean, it doesn't make any sense when we straight away move to supply chain relationship, because integration is what it is making into a good relationship between the suppliers. So therefore, we have to understand a bit of integration and relationship together. So this is my plan today for the lecture. Starting from different sourcing strategies. I think you already know what is sourcing. I don't have to explain it again and again. So if you look at different sourcing strategies, we have these, 1 second, please. Yeah, all right. So in sourcing, right? In sourcing, outsourcing, local sourcing, global sourcing. I have given you certain examples as well. Then depending on the number of supplies that you are dealing with, again, you can understand them as single sourcing, multiple sourcing, parallel sourcing, delegated sourcing. Let's see what they are. And starting from insourcing, I think you know that we really do not depend on outside suppliers. You are trying to do it. It's like 100% integrated company where you use your own. You own your suppliers. You yourself is making your raw materials, right? So you don't like depend on external suppliers, so you did by yourself. So in-sourcing strategy is something like that, right? So the example that I have given here is Netflix, as we all know what is Netflix. So of course, they do outsourcing, but their strategy, if you look at their sourcing strategy, it's more reliant on in-sourcing, right? In-sourcing where they do have their digital library and then technology and everything. It's done by themselves, right? So because they don't want to lose their competitiveness, depending on another like outsourcing companies. Because if you look at the outsourcers, usually they only not are serving to you. They have many other customers as well. Of course, if you look at their customers, they are your competitors. Okay, so in that case, they really do not want to lose their competitiveness in the market, and that is the main reason why they are trying highly to be depending on their own resources. So they do outsource certain things, but mostly if you look at their sourcing strategy, it's as I told you, it's mostly in sourcing. Okay, example. And then if you look at what is outsourcing, I think outsourcing is what whenever you like, you may have have performed it by yourself sometimes back, but then again, now you're going to like give the responsibility of that particular function to another external party, which is not owned by you. So that is outsourcing. Someone else is serving you. Someone else is, now you may have selected which functions that you're going to outsource for your company. So for now, since it is, I mean, if you look at this logistic industry, you know, like most of the companies are actually outsourcing their logistic function. That's 3PL companies, third-party logistic companies are there in the industry where they are actually providing the logistic service, especially like warehousing, you know, transport, those things. Now, if you look at Sri Lankan 3PL industry, that is much more dominated. The dominated function is, of course, warehousing. That is the key reason why most of the companies are outsourcing their logistic function. Although they call it logistics, basically it has been constrained to warehouse and sometimes transport as well. But basically it is warehousing. They use these 3PL providers, warehouses. They have massive warehouses where they provide the service to their outsources. Okay, so then of course, if you look at outsourcing strategy as a sourcing strategy, you can see that this, as an example, we can take this 3PL function, the 3PL companies where they, I mean, they, other companies are outsourcing these companies to get their logistics service done. But even if you call it logistics, I think last time we discuss about all these differences between supply chain, logistics. There we understood that logistic is very broad a function where we have not only, I mean, when you say logistics, it's like it includes many functions starting from demand forecasting, and then we have warehousing, inventory, and of course transportation, what else? Quality inspection, capacity planning, reverse logistics. So there are so many functions that are coming under the logistic function. But although we call it third-party logistic companies, still our industry, Sri Lankan industry, of course, has been constrained to mostly warehousing, and of course they do inventory management, and then there are maybe transport as well, but basically it is warehouse oriented 3PL strategy that is functioning in Sri Lanka. But when you look at 3PL other strategies, of course, you can go for starting from 3PL, which is the very basic level, 3PL, 4PL, 5PL, 6PL, 7PL. So nowadays, if you look at the international context, you can see that these logistic providers, third-party logistic providers, they are actually now have provide the service to their clients up to 7PL level, where the other companies are actually letting them to plan entire logistic functions starting from their strategic level. So the entire function has been outsourced to a company where they look at their overall, you know, external, internal market conditions, their competitors, their strengths and weaknesses everywhere in the market, and they are the people who are actually planning the logistic function to their client. But we've not gone to that level. We are still at a very basic level of like it has basically been mostly warehousing function that you actually outsource from those 3PL companies. However, so that can also be taken as a as an example for sourcing strategy called outsourcing. So insourcing, outsourcing, and then local sourcing. I think local sourcing, that is based on where you are getting your supplies from, where you have like identified your suppliers to get your products from. So if they are locally based, I mean, if they are within the country, if you take Sri Lanka, if they are within the country, if your supplies can be found, you know, within your country, so you can call it local sourcing. So most of the SMEs, of course, small and medium enterprises, since, you know, they lack much more resources financially and other physical resources. So their strategy is highly reliant on like the single, local sourcing, where you are trying to get your raw materials from the local suppliers. So which can be called local sourcing. And then when you look at the global sourcing, now that's what, of course, our garment industry is doing. If you have anyone in this classroom from garment industry, you may know like we are highly depending on, right? Because if you look at our raw material base, I think more than about 60 to 70% are coming from abroad, right? We have like foreign suppliers, we are highway. So main raw material, which is fabric, that is again coming from other countries, mostly it is from China or Indonesia. And then even if you look at certain clients of your retail on, brand owners, like, these European, American, those brands are actually nominating the suppliers. So not only for fabrics, sometimes for other accessories as well. So then you'll have to depending on them, because although sometimes you might find the same accessories, like, these ribbons, buttons, those laces and all. Sometimes you might find them in the local market, but still, since your customer is nominating the supplies for all those things as well, you definitely have to, you have no choice. You're forced to buy them from those suppliers. So basically, if you look at a garment industry, therefore, you can see it is global sourcing, all right? So you get your raw materials from different suppliers in different countries, different parts of the world. And that is an industry, if you look at our context, like that, you rely highly on global sources. Okay, so because your suppliers are like they are from other countries, not from the local, from our own country, right? And then if I take you to the next slide to talk about single sourcing and these other four, like, single sourcing, multiple sourcing, parallel sourcing, dedicated sourcing. Let's look at what they are. Sorry, I'm going backwards here. Right. So this is single sourcing, where you highly depending on one supplier, right? So for your if you're a manufacturing or if you're a service or whatever, now if it is a service delivering company, so then of course for your other, the resources, the supplies that you want in order to provide the service to the customers. So if you're relying on only single supplier for one supplier, one raw material, of course, that can be called single sourcing, which is very risky. If you look at the single sourcing strategies, that's highly risky, because whenever there are disruptions in the markets and all, now the very recent example that we can have is like COVID pandemic that we had. Although many people have not, haven't recognized, haven't figured out that their raw materials are coming from China, right? Because the extended supply chain was not known to them, and they were only where you get now. Because when you have your immediate suppliers, tier one supplier, you definitely have to go beyond that to understand where your supplier, from where your supplier is getting your raw materials from. And if that is from China, of course, yes, you may have multiple suppliers, but if they're geographically located in China, during that case, of course, although they are they are different suppliers, but if they're based in the same country, sometimes, that might affect very badly, where your entire supply chain goes disrupted when you don't have a way of getting your raw materials or whatever the supplies that you have been buying to provide the service. So single sourcing, right? And the multiple sourcing, of course, on the other hand, the opposite of that, where you have different suppliers. Maybe now when you're looking at different suppliers also, it is always better that you find them from different geographical locations in order to reduce the risk of like region related any disruptions, or weather related, those things, because then everyone, like in the COVID pandemic, although you have many supplies, if they are coming from the same country, all of them wouldn't be able to supply you, because they equally have been affected by the same disaster. So multiple sourcing, therefore, to get your raw materials from different suppliers, it's always better that you diversify them based on their geographical regions as well, for your own betterment. Yeah, so that is multiple sourcing. Yeah, so if you look at the delegated sourcing, of course, so you have now the difference between single sourcing and dedicated sourcing is you give that responsibility to one supplier, where that supplier will be dealing with many other suppliers. And however, you really do not worry this level of sourcing. You only work with this supplier, tier one supplier, and that supplier's responsibility is to look at all those, because you have delegated your sourcing to that, but maybe for a what do you call, a particular class of materials or particular group of materials, or So you have delegated one supplier to look after that particular section where that supplier is responsible to provide you whatever that you want that's been assigned to him. So that is delegated sourcing. So when you are going to delegated sourcing, of course, you may have to be very, you may have to have a very good relationship with the supplier, because you're totally going to depend on this particular supplier, right? So usually you do not straight away do that without knowing the supplier very well, delegated supplier. And then this is parallel sourcing. So of course, parallel sourcing is for like similar. Now you can see supplier, you have like supplier A1, supplier A2. So you are parallelly sourcing. I mean, you are sourcing from the same suppliers, many products. That's just a parallel sourcing. This is multiple sourcing is different because you buy the same thing. Now here you buy same thing from same suppliers, but here parallelly you are sourcing. I mean, you are sourcing different products from the same suppliers. Okay, so that's parallel sourcing. So you have, like, if you look at supplier B1, and this can be identified different cluster. This is a different cluster where you I mean, now supplier, you get same product from supplier B1, supplier A1, another product from supplier B1, supplier A2. Okay, so you are buying different products from the same suppliers parallelly. So you do that basically too, in order to minimize the risk of relying on one supplier for one product as multiple sourcing. So that's the difference here, parallel sourcing, to reduce the risk, diversifying the risk between the suppliers. So in case you go, like, you face any disruptions, because like, if you look at the supply chain function, supply chain management function as a business function, that is very much different from other functions that you can find in your organization, whereas those functions are highly like internally driven, internally bounded, because I mean, it's if it is HR, or if it is marketing, if it is finance, it's about how you manage your finance. I mean, within your organization, right? Between like what resources that you have to allocate your finance for what you have to spend. And also, it's basically, if you are very good at managing that internally, that will give you the results that you want. You'll be able to achieve your KPIs and everything, right, through the right strategies. And it's quite controllable because it is within the organization. Even if you look at HR, marketing, and everything, of course you get information from the external market, but you are actually managing it. But if you look at supply chain function, that is highly vulnerable, where you will have to your function, the way that you are working, will be affected highly by the other external sources. And also like, if anything happens in the outside environment, now even this recent landslides and this flood and everything due to this what do you call this cyclone, we saw that although it was for a short period, that was affected, like, because there weren't any way of like getting transported from where your vegetable fruits are grown, and like even from the stores that you have already maybe like you may have stored them, but we didn't have proper, like, because they were like everywhere floods, and then roads being blocked, so you could not actually transport things from as we used to transport. We could not do that. So the point here is, now the supply chain function, your business, this is again another business function that we have in our organization, can actually be affected by any of the disasters that is happening outside. It can be, it's not only even a disaster, certain geopolitical issues. I think we have enough of sources very recently from the global scenario. When something happen in somewhere in the world, if you are into a global supply chain, even if it is not, if you look at fuel prices and everything, that is always like fluctuating depending on the different kind of relationship that these giant economies are actually having between them. So they are going to be affected on prices of everything, and that is affecting on the supply chain, right? Logistics, transport, and also. So therefore, this is a function where all those things could be affecting on what you are planning inside your organization, because your plans might not go as you have planned. There can be unexpected changes that is taking place in the market. They are definitely going to be affecting on you. And also the other thing is, even if you look at internally, it's quite difficult. I mean, you can plan your strategies quite excellent, but again, now if you look at your supplies, now when you look at suppliers and relationship, it is actually starting from suppliers, right? So then whenever the suppliers do not comply on what they have like promised to you, to send on at a particular time, quality and quantity and, location and all, whenever things go wrong, and there's a high chance where things can go wrong, because you're planning your strategy, and based on your strategy, you place your orders, everything with the suppliers, but then that's what you can do. Okay, so you're placing the order with the suppliers, but whether they are delivering on time, whether they're delivering the right product, right? Whether everything else is as you have agreed, can entirely be depending on the supply performance, your supply performance, right? Which is highly uncontrollable. So that's what I'm telling. So therefore, when you look at this particular function, by its nature itself, it's very complicated, very vulnerable, and it is very much exposed to risk. So that's why we are highly worrying about, choosing the right suppliers with all these different sourcing strategies. We are trying to minimize the risk of this particular function. Right, moving to, as long as you're very silent, I'm assuming that you understand everything, right? If you have any questions, you can always raise. Right. So as I told you, this is outsourcing. I'm going to take outsource. I'll take that outsourcing function quite. I'm planning to quite, like elaborate on the same thing. So outsourcing, as I already told you, it's a transfer of a third party, transfer to a third party of the management and delivery of a process previously performed by the company itself. So whenever you have performed something by yourself, and if you're deciding to transfer it to a third party on behalf of you, that is identified as outsourcing. Right. So when you look at this outsourcing, people sometimes go confused. They get confused with these strategies. They are not outsourcing, but some similar practices. Okay, let's say what they are: offshoring, nearshoring, backshoring. So when you look at this offshoring, you are transfer of specific processes to lower cost locations in other countries. So why actually you do that? Now, if you look at outsourcing, there are different reasons for us to go for outsourcing. We will go through them. There are many reasons why usually we are going for outsourcing. And then cost can be one of them. Cost can be one of the reasons. So even here, offshoring, we do offshoring in order to get the cost benefit. Okay, so if you can see, rather than you do that in your country, it can be done at a lower cost in another country. So you basically go there and do your operations there. That's why sometimes you can see this our government industry, they go and set up factories in Vietnam, in Bangladesh, in India, in order to get different tariff benefits, those things. So, if you are transferring specific processes to lower cost location in other countries, right? Maybe not only in manufacturing, but service operations such as call centers, transaction processing. I think you may have all this BPO industry where business process outsourcing industry, where they have come to like mainly, those USA based in this in this medical related, this insurance and all. I think they are being based in Sri Lanka or India. Why? Because of the low labor cost. Okay, so and then low technology cost and all. So they have those in BPO industry basically. It is being practiced quite frequently, quite commonly. because they are setting up those service operation centers in this part of the world in order to enjoy these cost benefits. Okay, so therefore, if you look at offshoring, which is again can be taken as a sourcing strategy, that's happening in not only in manufacturing, but also you can see that happens in services industries as well. Okay, and nearshoring, even when you even look at the term, you can understand it is nearshoring. Offshoring to the locations, you know what is offshoring now, right? You're transferring your processes to some other countries. But if they are location close to the home market, you can call it nearshoring. Okay, it is again a kind of like a offshoring. But if the location that you are transferring is closer to your home market, now that's actually what we've been doing, like India, Bangladesh, you know, those are quite closer to our country. They can also be identified as nearshoring. And the backshoring is bringing it back to your home country. So once a particular function has been performed in another country, like offshoring or nearshoring, if you have again decided to bring it back to your home country, that can be called backshoring, right? Okay, right. So then if you look at the reasons, why the reasons for outsourcing, okay, I already told you, cost is can be major reason, you know, cost, because the reduced cost, lower cost, when you're performing them in those countries. Of course, why those BPO industry people come into Sri Lanka? Because of the low labor cost. Now, if they operate them in those countries, it doesn't matter because what's the location is, because they are happening through, you know, I mean, they're online, right? Everything is like, it's just like you don't have to do anything. It's a service. As long as it's service, it can be delivered. Now, even it is an online lecture, right? It doesn't matter where you are joining from. Okay, so in that case, location is not a problem. So it can be delivered from anywhere in the world. Only issue is that you have to, whenever that you are serving to a USA company, when it is based in Sri Lanka, so our workers may have to work in the night, because that is the daytime for them. That is where things are happening in their industry. So other than that, it doesn't matter where it is being performed, as long as it is just a service, right? So therefore, they move and set up their operations in low-cost countries in terms of labor and technology, you know, and everything compared to their own country. And they make huge profits based on that. Okay, so cost. Sometimes the flexibility that you have with the suppliers and all, how flexible you are, you know, flexibility. And the core competencies. Core competencies is like, I mean, you can now when you look at the garment industry, of course, we would say, if you look at those retail brands, like, you know, these well-known retail brands like Mark and Spencer, Victoria's Secret, and then Nike, Adidas, all of them are coming in this part of the world. So we are one of, I mean, Sri Lanka is one of the manufacturers, but there are many other countries like India, Vietnam, Bangladesh. They are also manufacturing for the same company, same brand. So why they are coming to this part of the world? Of course, raw material, I mean, of course, cheap labor and everything, but our core competencies as well, right? Because if you look at Sri Lankan garment industry is well known for the quality. Okay, so our core competency is our labor is, of course, cheap compared to those countries. Our labor is cheap, but at the same time, our labor is very skilled and talented as well. That is the core competence that we have. Okay, so although it is low cost for them, the other reason is, that's why it's, you know, even here I have mentioned that any combination of above reasons. Of course, low cost is one of the reasons, but the core competency that we have in terms of our skills of our employees, and our employees, you know, now even if you look at this, like the workers, these factory workers in garment industries, they are educated people. At least they've gone through, you know, they have got through got O levels, or most of them are A-level pass, and then it is easy to train them, right? And which ensures the quality of the garments finally. So that can also be there for core competency. So core competency is what, I mean, how do you identify competencies can be there, and core competency is what you're really good at. Okay, what you're really good at. So it is your core competence. So usually the practice is when it comes to outsourcing, right? It says that your core competence shouldn't be outsourced. That's how it is. I mean, there are different models and theories that are discussed in the literature, which says that you should not. I don't know whether you have this Prahalad model and all. They say whenever you are making outsourcing decision, when you're identifying the functions to be outsourced or not, you should not outsource your core competencies. Now, right, one example that I can give you is, if you look at this Boeing, right, which is an aircraft manufacturing company, and they launched this Dreamliner. That was their aircraft model, which was launched long time back. This is not a recent story though, long time back. However, their plan was, I mean, they wanted to launch it 10 times, 10 years before the day that they launched it. They launched it even a few years back. It is not a new model, Dreamliner, but however, now from the day that they launched it, their plan was to launch it before 10 years. So they've got their plan 10 years delayed. Okay, they've got their plan 10 years delayed. The reason was the raw decision that they took in order to outsource these functions to China. I mean, the entire manufacturing function, they started to outsource to China, where they have like transferred their processes, everything. And I mean, they have given all the authority to Chinese manufacturers to make this aircraft. And on the way that they understood that they're losing their controlling and everything, and then their quality would be affected, and it's not their own way of like doing the things. And then they saw that it is not going to work because they have outsourced their entire manufacturing function. Manufacturing those aircrafts, entire thing had been outsourced to those China, where later on, I mean, mere reason would have been the cost, but then they understood that, I mean, although the cost would be minimized, they might lose entire thing. They might lose the quality and, their reputation and everything if aircraft would not come to the way that the standards and everything that they usually maintain. So then they, discontinued that agreement, and they took it over back to them, and they were doing it, by themselves, which took such a long time to get them back on the track and do it. So it was launched 10 years later than the day that they plan to launch it. So that's what it says. Your core competence, who you are is your core competence. If you're a manufacturer, so the competence that you have developed over time, been in the same industry for many years, the competence that you have developed to do it better, that is your core competence. You shouldn't, outsource that. Instead, that's why most of the people go and outsource logistic. It's just a supplementary support function. It's not a core function like manufacturing or whatever the service that you provide, but you are getting the support from logistic function. Once your core competence, once your product is done with your core competence, and then you get the service for them to be delivered. So when you are deciding on what is to be outsourced, what is not to be outsourced, so you basically should look at what your core competence is, and you should not outsource core competencies. Your core competence should be kept to you, right? You should not let other companies come and interfere that. It might like long term, it might affect adversely long term, but any other thing, of course, can be outsourced. And the technology can be another reason why people, right? So you may not have that. Now there can be very specific few machines that you have in the entire country, and those machines and everything must be owned by few suppliers. So you have no choice, that you definitely have to go for them. So technology can also be a reason for you to outsource. And also it can be any combination of these things as well, as I told you earlier. Right, so these are the main reasons for outsourcing. Okay. Yeah, so when these reasons are elaborated, you can, if I elaborate these 4 reasons, You can see this, the breakdown of them. So I suggest you to go through them. When you say cost, it can be, direct, indirect cost. What is direct cost, what is indirect cost. So if you're a manufacturer, your manufacturing cost, that is your direct cost, and indirect cost can be, like every other utility, and then, your labor, your salaries and all indirect cost, and the reduced capital cost, and then the taxes, right? Logistic cost, overcome tariff barriers, and provide better service to the customers. You are outsourcing it because you need to provide a better service to the customers. Spread foreign exchange risk, as I told you earlier also in my examples, but this garment industry example, where you are going to, go and locate your plants in another country, and the share risk, build alternative supply sources, gain access to world-class capabilities to attract talent globally. So that is also possible. Learn from local suppliers, foreign customers or competitors, okay? Which is also another reason. So please go through them. I mean, it's just the same things that I have broken down into smaller, like the at the level of it, and then elaborated on the same thing. Right. So these are some other terms that you must know when it comes to outsourcing. I'm sure that you are using this in your industry. Whenever you have to work with your suppliers, you're looking at the first thing that you're looking at is SLA, right? Service level agreement. And what is this? SLA is a key part of a contractual agreement which is legally binding between a customer and a supplier to identify upfront the performance or the service level expected. So you must, if you're going to select a supplier and sign the agreement, this is what you got to know. What is actually their SLA, service level agreement? So you need to let your suppliers know what you really want from them, what is your expectation and everything, and you can negotiate and have a discussion with them. And once both parties are agreed, you can go for this SLA, agreements to be signed between the suppliers and the customers. So that is your SLA agreement. And when you say order qualifies, now you are doing all these agreements with your suppliers, like in order to make sure that you are getting the right service, right performance from the suppliers. So then suppliers who meet the minimum expectations in the SLA, right? So when you have this service level agreement, SLA, uh, uh, the suppliers who will meet, I mean, they all will be qualify your orders. Now, whenever you may also have learned by now maybe about, what do you call this? When you call for tenders, so who can meet now? Now, once your SLA is communicated, what is your service level expectation and everything? When they are like communicated to them, they will apply. They will bid, of course, and when they can see that they are qualified for these orders. Okay, when they know that they can deliver, they can meet this SLA standard. So they all can be identified as the order qualifiers, but everyone will not get your order. So they are order winners, the people who get, right, the criteria that allows suppliers to be selected actually. So that is, they are order winners. So you have your criteria that you are evaluating, that you decide based on it. Your evaluation will be based on the criteria that you have, and then you will evaluate each of the order qualifier, and finally you will select, if you want 1 or 2 or 3, you will select them. They'll be the order winners. Yeah. And then do versus buy decision. Okay. Let me look at it. Okay. Now, do versus buy decision. This is one of the key decisions we must make, and this is what it guides us later on subsequently about our sourcing strategies. This is the main decision that we must make. If you look at some theories that are in the past, literature, there is a theory called RBV, resource-based view. Resource-based view. There it says, make or buy decision. This whether you are making it or buy now. Those days when they were introducing those theories and everything, this outsourcing, insourcing, those terms were not there. Later on, we have identified them. But of course, that's what they have. I mean, they have taken it as make or buy decision. Whether you're making or whether you're buying it from outside. So if you make it, of course, it's in-house. In-sourcing, sorry, right? You make it in-house and that is in-sourcing. And if you buy it from outside, that is outsourcing. All right. So then depending on whether you make it yourself, which is in-sourcing, or whether you're going to buy it outsourcing, right? So that isn't that deciding about your supply chain, right? Because the selection of the suppliers, which is the starting point of a supply chain, that's what we do first. You source your suppliers, you identify your suppliers. So that from that point on itself, your decision to take your decision to make or buy will be actually playing a role there from that point onwards. Now, when I have decided to make, then then it is insourcing. So it's again, you really do not have to worry about your supplies because you are doing that yourself. And if it is outsourcing, you must make the right choice to select the right suppliers. So then it is outsourcing. So that itself is highly exerting an influence on your supply chain, which is the very focal point, start in front of your entire supply chain function. So therefore, to understand make or buy, in other words, do versus buy decision was critical. That is critical in the supply chain. So whenever we talk about sourcing and everything, in most of the books that's been written and then the research articles that they have been that they discuss the same matters are actually highlighting this very much. Make or buy decision. Make or buy decision. Okay. Or otherwise do versus buy. Why I talked about RBV, resource-based theory. There it says nicely, right? So if you have this, make, otherwise buy. So likewise, there are few stages starting from one particular kind of a competent and then come to another level. So there are 4 levels of like that and then evaluating based on each thing. And all those 4 levels are impossible only. You're going to buy it. Otherwise, you're trying your best to make it according to this particular theory of resource-based view. There they say, all right, if you have this, make. If you don't have this, try to build it, right? That's what it says. If you have the resources to make it, right? If not, the next stage is try to build these resources with you, then make. So like that, or otherwise it says the third stage, you try to acquire someone else's resources that they can do it. Okay, so yes, if yes, make, otherwise buy. So that's how it goes in. So there in RBV, they say clearly how you should, when you have to, how you're actually making that decision to make or buy or do versus buy decision. Right? Just a bit about background of it. And then this e-business sector, so they basically outsource everything. They do not make anything, right? They outsource. Virtual organization, e-business sector, outsource everything. You outsource everything, okay, in those industries. And vertical integration, example, Ford, no outsourcing at all. One of the examples that I can give you is actually they have not outsourced anything. They are on supply chain. Now, Ford is actually taking their, what do you call this? The yarn that they want to make their seats, those fabrics and everything, they also come from their own farms. Okay, they all have these sheep farms that they get these fur and then make them into yarn, and then they do their seed cast and everything. So therefore, that is 100%, of course, outsourcing, no insourcing, no outsourcing at all. But if you look at the virtual organizations, they don't own anything, they outsource it. Even if you look at this Uber and all, they don't know. I mean, it's basically how do they run their businesses by outsourcing everything, right? You have to give me 1 second, please. Right. Okay, so these are some of the key terms that you got to know when we learn about supply chain. Yeah, do you have any questions? Yes, someone raise your hand. Or is it an exit? Oh, Nenda. PKK Wahan. Anyway, I know. So if you have anything that you want to clarify, you can always interfere me. You can raise your hand. Okay, you can raise your voice, not only hand. Okay, original equipment manufacturer is now whenever you can see in the supply chain. I think last time I must have explained this to you. If you're a manufacturer, okay, you're buying your raw materials from other suppliers, but you're making something. So you can be identified in your supply chain as the original equipment manufacturer. And the contract manufacturer is you actually I mean, you can actually buy, assemble. It's like that you're doing like kind of like assembling in your rather. I mean, now for example, if you take this Toyota, Toyota sends everything to other companies, other countries. They may have their like contract manufacturers where they send all those parts, and then what they do in those countries, they assemble it. Like that, okay? We call them contract manufacturers. They are not original equipment manufacturers. They are contract manufacturers. And the design for manufacture is designing products that are very easy to make, right? Very easy to make. Because sometimes now there are, whenever you are making a new product in your companies, okay? New products in your companies, this is something that you have to think about. Most of the people, I mean, they actually don't think about this. Now you go with nice fancy ideas, and then when you are trying to, okay, you search the market, you do your this thing, that thing, and then everything, then finally you are starting to make it. Then you find that you cannot make it because sometimes you might not have right suppliers, or these raw materials are very expensive where you wouldn't be able to sell it in the market at a affordable price, or you don't have the right technology with you to make that product, right? So then you haven't thought about design for manufacturing. DFM therefore is something. I mean, there can be very nice fancy ideas, but making, if that is not possible to make it, of course you can't do that. So therefore, usually that's why I think you may also have heard of this. Like whenever you're dealing with the suppliers, you do that in collaboration with the suppliers to understand the raw material market and everything, because they are much more aware than you about with the whether the continuity of the supplies will be there, or otherwise you'll have to, we have enough of examples in the market that you can see, some new products in the market, but within weeks later, when you're trying to buy the same thing, you can't find it. And sometimes, sometimes manufacturers discontinue certain products because they can't find raw materials. Okay, raw material supply base has not been that consistent, so therefore they haven't been able to secure the right raw materials for them continuously. So there are different reasons. Therefore, like this, whenever you haven't thought about that, you have not considered enough at the time of that you're making this decision with a new product development to go ahead or not, this could happen. So design for manufacturing, therefore, is that that we must know in this context, right? All right. So then earlier we understood some reasons starting from this and to this level, some reasons why you have to go and outsource. But now these are the reasons for failures in outsourcing. Sometimes, you're outsourcing, of course, you outsource, but you can be failed at times as well due to these reasons. Okay, these are coming from research, they are not my own reasons. I have forgotten to include the source here. This was there anyway. Right. So these are some of the reasons that outsourcing. Now you have identified some suppliers to outsource your raw materials, and you've been doing that. But at any time that can be failed. Your outsource is outsource. So you are outsourcing, they are outsourcers. Right. So they might vanish, disappear at any. It can happen at any time. So if you look at the reasons, right. So you can look at it. This is actually a result of a academic research. It's been done by a well-known scholar to understand the failures in outsourcing. Okay, right. So commitment of supply. When the commitment of supplier is getting lower and lower, of course, you don't see that their suppliers doing it their best. That can be the general responsiveness levels can be down, can go low. You may not be able to rely on your suppliers, and communication issues can be there. Late deliveries and the mistakes that you are outsourced does. Need for frequent reminders. You definitely have to keep on reminding them to get something done. And customers are complaining regarding the products that you have done based on these outsourcing functions. And differences in culture sometimes, right? Of course, because that could happen. Differences in culture, like Western culture and then the culture here. Cultural, sometimes some certain products that are culturally not acceptable in our cultures and their cultures, that could also happen. Differences in culture. A time difference again when you are dealing with those countries, because of course now whenever we are dealing with this, Canada, USA, that part of the world, that is totally like when it is day here, they are night here, they are 9-hour day, so completely opposite time zones where that might be highly affecting. When they are awake and when they are working, we are sleeping. So then we by force we have to stay wake up and to serve them, and there can be issues with those things as well. And when you lose the quality consistency, when you don't get the same quality from your outsource, and the confidentiality issues might have breached where they do not disclose any information about you, but when they have done it, and then confidentiality issues like that would happen. And the outsourcing being too polite. Okay. Now, if you look at our cultures, අපේ cultures වල තියෙන ළමයි අර බෑ කියන්න බැරි කතන්දරයක් නේ. Now, you really no. Although you do your business, it's again this average people do business. Okay, we've been like brought up in a certain culture, in a certain way. So usually your characteristics, your traits are being, they have been demonstrated in when you are doing your business as well, because it's not a totally different person. So if you are a very cold-hearted, very nice person, you usually do not say no. You have experience like working with different bosses Right? Some bosses are quite tough. Some other people are very nice. They never say no to anything, you know. So there are people like that. So these are from the cultures. So cultures, and then the cultures have made them in that way. Okay, so you may not be able to say no, therefore, so you're very polite. But then whenever you say no for something that you actually cannot do, there can be issues with the work that you have done, right? And the cost realization competency is like how far that you can regain the cost that you have incurred, and then the commitment of your supplier. All right, so they can be, therefore, some failures that you can identify as failures in outsourcing. Okay, because although you have selected outsourcers, and then you are now carrying out business functions with them, but whenever there are issues with them, whenever some issues are coming from your outsourcers, this can be due to these reasons. So then you have to figure out whether are you going to discuss and settle the issue, or are you going to change your supply. Right. Okay. Now this one is to talk about the relationship between the outsourcer and the outsourcee. Right? So outsourcer is the company that it gives you the service, and the outsourcee is the company who is actually benefiting it, right? Who is getting the service from them. They are outsourcing, and if you outsource any company, you are outsourcing, and they are the outsourcer. Okay. Now these there can be 4 kinds of relationship that you can have with your outsource and the outsourcee, right? So the master servant stage, it is a very conventional relationship type that you can, even if you look at the name of this master servant stage. Okay. So these are actually, you can take this can be taken as some stages of this particular cycle of outsource and outsourcing relationship. If you take it as a cycle, there are different stages that that you can identify that at different phases of your relationship. So the first stage can be taken as like master servant stage. Okay, so your master, it can be the outsource company, and the servant can be identified as the outsourcee, right? So then this kind of a relationship is a conventional relationship that outsources as the expectations and the rules, and the set the expectation and rules, and the outsourcing delivers as per the shift related norms. Okay, so here, right? So you are the company. Outsourcer is the company who outsource, right? Outsourcee is the person who provides us the service. So then master servant stage is outsourcer is completely dominating it. You're the master, you're the one who sets rules, policies, and expectations, and outsourcing must follow them. Okay. And then, so for this kind of a relationship, the cost can be the reason. Usually the low cost is the main driver of this kind of outsourcing relationships. Okay. Because you have outsourced them because of their low cost. And so your master is actually sets the rules and many things, but this is what I want, this is when it has to be delivered, and this should be the quality, and this should be the raw materials that they should be used, and everything. And then outsourcing must meet those expectations of the outsourcer. Okay, so usually the cost, based on the cost factor, you go for this kind of like sometimes these kind of relationships of relationship of master and servant nature. Master, servant. So master is the one who is controlling it. Servant is the one who is following it. Simple as that. And at the consultative stage, now this is very basic kind of a relationship where you don't see very good understanding and collaboration between here the master and the servant, or the outsourcer and the outsourcee. But when you're moving to this stage, from there to there, it seems like a consultative stage, right? Kind of a consultant-client relationship. Okay, outsource consults with the outsourcing regular basis, and price is not the factor, but for quality reliability. So at a if it is a consultative relationship stage in your company, it is actually outsource company, or outsourcer consults with the outsource. Out Sorry, I don't know from where I lost it. There was like a small connection issue. Up to which point you heard me? Because I didn't realize where I lost from.
Consultative stage should be.
I started this thing, but I could not. I mean, I was like, of course, kept on talking, but I realized that I have lost the connection. So then I start from here again, right? Thank you.
Yes.
Right. So yeah. Okay, so master servant stage, yes. So master is setting all these, expectations and everything, and the outsourcee is actually complying with that and trying their best to serve to the master. But now, consultative stage is you are always consulting your client, right? Your outsourcer, consult, outsourcee, regular basis, and eventually, collectively they make decisions and they come to the agreements, expectations, and everything based on a discussion, with this two-way communication, and that's how it happens. It's much more like not like this. Now the earlier one was like a conventional dominating kind of a relationship, where here it is like more consultative, more collaborative. So they both discuss and make decisions here. Sometimes the master says, okay, this should be done, this must be done. Then also they must come and say, sometimes if you do this, this would happen, and with what we can do, it won't be possible, but this is what we can do. Kind of like a quite collaborative discussion mode, decision making, where both parties will be beneficial, right? And that is called consultative stage. So outsourcing consults with the outsourcing, regular basis, and price is not the factor. Now, there it was usually the cost or the price was the factor, but now you have actually selected this outsourcer, outsourcees, because of their reliability. And then responsiveness are also the other factors to sustain the relationship. Just not only the price factor, the cost factor that you are working with them, but also they are very reliable. You can trust them, you can rely on them. Whenever they say that they do something, they do that, and they are highly responsiveness. I mean, whenever you want to contact them, they like the moment that they want to change anything, or they are highly responsive to you. And that can be the reason why you are with them. And now, like in the earlier case, it is not always the cost or the price that you have chosen to work with them, although they are they are also your suppliers, okay, because you have like outsourced them, so they are suppliers. So why you have selected them here is just the cost or the price factor, but here not only that, but also reliability and responsiveness as well. Yeah. And then peer-to-peer relationship stage. Peer-to-peer. Okay. So it's again quite an advanced and quite developed relationship between the outsource and the outsourcee. More ideal synergistic long-term relationship, creating win-win situations. So of course, stemming from here, this is also quite a good relationship type, where you both consult and make decisions, but it's gone beyond that level, where you do your you work more collaboratively, and you identify you both as like peer-to-peer relationship stage, where you both like always discuss, consult, and then negotiation goes to till you get these win-win situations. Okay. So it's always mutually benefited. They both get benefits as a result of being an outsourcee or outsourcer for two different companies. They've also been benefited either way, mutually. So that could be the reason why they are sticking to this particular outsourcers, and then it could be more synergetic, ideal, long-term relationship. The purpose is also that, right? So once you have developed a very good relationship with your suppliers, it can be a long-term relationship. So they will be working with you continuously, because it's not just based on the price factor, but with the relationship as well, which is more towards long-term. So we will come to that later on to understand how important relationships with the suppliers. Okay, just not the short-term goals, but you are dealing with them, you are working with them, thinking about the future as well. So those maintain to long-term relationship with the suppliers, where they'll be your long-standing suppliers when you're working with them. So peer-to-peer relationship basis, something like that. And the worst thing is competitive stage, where outsourcing company takes the take the lead, starts competing. Okay, now you may have your own experience. Like now, let's say that I have been like outsourced by another company, and then when now after serving few years to the same company, then you are starting your own business. Okay, so outsourcing competitive stage. Outsourcing taking over outsourcers business. Okay, why should I like, why I do not do my own company? Why should I like serve to other companies? Why cannot do it by myself? I cannot have my own company. So then you actually stop working to other companies, but you are going to start your own operations. Okay, so that is competitive stage. Right. So yeah, now we are going to understand supply chain relationship. Before we are moving to that, do you have any questions with this part where I was talking about, this sourcing strategies and everything? Do you have any questions from this part? Yeah, before we are moving to this like supply chain relationship. So that's also quite a lot of stuff to discuss. But let me know, do you have any questions from the previous part up to the point that we have discussed? Yeah, up to this point. All right, so then okay. 3:20. Right, so it's 3:20. So then shall we take about 20 minutes break and come back? 3:40. It's 3:10. Because it's a new section that I'm going to discuss. So we'll take a break about 15 to 20 minutes and come back again at maybe 3:40. I'll be here, right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's start again. Yeah, so as I told you at the very beginning of the lecture, sourcing part, of course, we almost covered. Now we are moving to understand about supply chain relationship, okay? How are you actually going to create and maintain a sustainable relationship with your suppliers, which will be very useful as you're dealing with them for your business. Okay, so now, when we are talking about supply chains, the relation, how to build relationship with the suppliers, you cannot forget about integration, right? So many people and many of the, they are trying to talk about relationship without looking at the integration aspect of your supply chain, which is quite impossible because that's what it takes you to a level or a status where you can develop a relationship with the suppliers. So that starts with integration of your supply chain. Okay, so therefore let's understand what is this integration first, and then also let's see how once you have like a very well integrated supply chain, how that'll lead to build relationship with your suppliers. Okay, so that's the logic behind this. So when you look at supply chain integration, what does it actually mean? Now integration integration is now we are doing this through different communication channels. Now, for example, now when you take a supply chain, let me actually draw a simple supply chain for you here. Okay, right. Yeah, I will take this. I will now if you just draw a very simple supply chain like this. Just to understand. Okay, now here you have your suppliers. With the supply agents like Nokia. And then OEM is here. OEM. Original equipment manufacturer. And then what is this? Okay, let's say we have like our 3PL companies. Let's say that we have your 3PL companies here. 3PL. And then you have the customers here. The customers, okay, right? Customers or the markets are there, right? When you look at this simple supply chain, of course, in the real world, you wouldn't get this last game. So you may have different suppliers, they may have different models of working with you. So it's called complicated. But for us to understand what is this, let's stick to this very simple supply chain. Okay, so let's say that you are here in Sri Lanka. This is your supply chain. Usually, whenever you map a supply chain, that is from your own point of my supply chain, my company's supply chain, right? So now I have actually drawn here because this company's agents are there, this company's suppliers are there. So this is the supply chain of this particular company, okay? And this is to whom I'm delivering once I'm done with my production. They are the ones who are delivering it to the in markets. Therefore, this is this company's supply chain, okay? Right. So then when you take this, if I'm here in Sri Lanka and let's say that I'm a garment manufacturer, again, let's say that it's very easy for us to discuss a good example there. And then if I'm a garment manufacturer here based in Sri Lanka, I have my suppliers all around the world, for different my raw materials like fabric and other accessories. And some of them, of course, in the garment industry, you are definitely working through the agents of those suppliers where you place your orders with the agents and then the agent will deal with the supplier and you'll get through them. And they are in different countries. Suppliers are also different countries, and of course, let's say delivering is also done through freight forwarders and all. Okay, that are handled by different 3PL companies, or maybe they have separate freight forwarding companies, whoever they are, third-party people. And then your markets are also again in different countries. You are because you are supplying to like Europe and Australia, Canada, USA. To those countries, your clients, your your customers are there in those countries. Such a complicated supply chain. And then, um, now you are here in Sri Lanka, and your suppliers, your customers, your agents are everywhere in the world, all over the world. How actually are you going to work as a collective team, right? It's always true. Now, what actually made you connected as a network is information. You are telling them what you want, when you want, how much you want, and that's what it makes you keep connected with the other body. For you to flow this information to the other party, you must have a proper communication channel. That's what it says here, right? So integration embodies various communication channels and linkages within a supply network. So these linkages, this arrow from there to there, right? I mean, you never can like a pull, or rope from there to there and, keep you people connected through like that. So that rope is always information through a proper communication channel. That's through what you are being staying connected with some other party. Okay, that's true what you are connected. So that's how you identify, them as a part of your supply chain, an organization which is in the same supply chain network. So that's through what we have been connected, and we have been converted to a particular network that can be identified as a supply chain. So that's what it says here. It's through communication channels we have been connected. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. Still you are a supply chain. You are working together. So you are dealing with the other party for the purpose that you have got connected with them. So therefore, this is a supply chain, right? And then All right, then thank you. And very sorry about it. Okay. Right. Yeah. So going back to what we were discussing. Yeah. So then I told you that communication channel is what that keep you all connected as a particular network. That's when we know that we are working together. Okay. Otherwise, you don't have a like, I mean, you don't have any other way of connecting because we are like located geographically dispersed. We are everywhere in the world, or even if it is the same country, I mean, you don't see them, you can't, or you can just talk them, oh, hey, please send me that. You know, it's not how you work. So you are at different locations, but you are working together. You've been connected as one network through these communication channels. So that's what it says here. But then that's what it's supposed to be integrated. You know, it to be converted to integrated supply chain, but integration is not that. Communication channels are helping you to be integrated with the other members of your supply chain. But the integration is, if you look at what integration is, integration is the alignment and interlinking of business processes. Okay, now let's take one example here. It is actually now it's not like that you are working in your own organization right now. Even in your organization, you'll have to ensure that everything is properly aligned and connected, even the internal functions. But especially when you're working with another company, another organization, whatever, I mean, you have selected a particular company to a particular company to work with for a particular purpose. Now, for example, if you look at your suppliers, you what do they do for you is they are supplying whatever you want, right? And for that, you should let them know what you want, when you want, and everything, and you must send those information to them, and those organizations must process them. So these business functions or the transactions are happening between organizations now, not inside a particular one single organization. Right? So it's between different organizations. So then I must ensure that my processes now, I have my processes that I am working like, you know, working with or work, I mean, that I'm being compliance with, right? So I have that processes with me, and these processes must be at particular one point. These processes must link with the other organization processes as well. That's through what this continuation, you know, like goes from this side to the other side of the business function. Otherwise, if my processes, my organization processes are not linked with the other organization processes at the right point, it'll go like this or like that, where this gap will actually interrupt your seamless flow throughout the supply chain. So until this gap get fixed, why there are delays. Now, sometimes, now, if these processes are not very well linked here, whatever that you are sending from this organization to the other organization, it can be, you know, your purchase order, your whatever it is that you are sending them from there to there, will not go to the right place of their process, and it will not be processing. So then now you have already placed the purchase order and you are waiting to be processed and to be contacted from the other organization for the delivery and all, but that does not happen. Since it is getting delayed only, now you inquire about it. Then you will see, okay, so they have not received what you have sent. Okay, because they have not like maybe they may have not altered or changed their process of working to be connected this process, or maybe I have not looked at their way of working and I haven't like properly got it to the right alignment to be, you know, linked together. Either party must be flexible, you know, and then otherwise you should talk together and see how this connection must be made from this side to the other side, which is called supply chain integration. Okay, so that's what it says here. Integration is the alignment and the interlinking of business process. Is it clear, everyone? What is this integration. Is it clear? You have been very silent throughout the lecture, ne? මට මේක තනියෙන් කරන්න තිබ්බ අපරාධي ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලොගින් උනේ යන්නේ නේ මම රෙකෝඩින් එකක් දැම්මම නම් ඉතින් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට අහගෙන ඉන්න තිබ්බා නැද්ද මම Is everything clear? Whoever who are there, I don't know who are there, right? Yes?
Yes, madam.
Yes? Clear?
Yes, madam.
Okay, thank you. Right, so then, then, what I know. Okay, right, back to the same screen. Yeah. So this, how does it happen? I'll take an example for you. Now let's say that, okay, so this is me, right? My organization. This is my supply chain. I am trying to, okay, so let's say that I'm implementing JIT. You may know what is JIT, right? So I'm implementing JIT, and therefore now if any company is implementing JIT, there can be frequent small orders with the suppliers. Okay, so you are sending very frequent small orders to the suppliers because it's not like when you're practicing JIT in your organization, you are trying your best to be go with the ideal it should be zero inventory. Excuse me, but probably it might be not practical with other limitations that are coming from external environments and everything. However, you are trying your best to be best to have the minimum inventory that you must have, and otherwise it's always I mean it's whenever you want, you order with the suppliers, and then it is going to be quite frequent small orders with the suppliers if it is JIT implementation. Right now, when I have decided, okay, now I have decided I'm trying to reduce the inventory cost and all by implementing JIT Kela. Mama hitala, when I'm going to, okay, now I'm straight away I'm sending an order to my supplier. I want this many by this day. Supplier would say, okay, I don't have inventory now. You'll have to wait because I haven't got inventory with me. So I cannot implement it like that. Okay, so then if I am implementing JIT, my suppliers must also support me. Right? My suppliers should also, so their processes must get integrated with my process. So then when they know that their customers are implementing JIT, they also have to be aligned, their processes to be aligned with the way that I am working. So that's integration. That's integration. Okay, right. All right. So then collaboration is the relationship between supply chain partners developed over a period of time. Okay. Now, whenever you have stick to few suppliers, you actually will be able to work with a particular supplier long term. When your processes got aligned, that's when you're sticking to those suppliers. Whenever, because otherwise, if the suppliers are delaying, if things are not happening smoothly, and if it is always problems, if you always have to call them, remind them, I mean it's not, I mean it can be due to a misalignment of your processes as well, but you have not very carefully looked at the reasons why this happens. However, so with these issues, you don't want to continue work with the same supplier. Whenever you can see a supplier that you can work very smooth without any issues, of course, that is one of the reasons for that can be the proper integration of your processes as well. So when you're working with the same supplier like this, for few months or few years or like that, it tends to develop a very good relationship because it's the same supplier that I'm working with, same set of suppliers that I'm working with, and they've been very collaborative working with you. Whenever that you get urgent orders, that they have been very polite and very nice for you, expediting the orders and also very reliable, very credible. So that's how that has been converted. That has been. So that's what it had made to a nice long-term relationship with the suppliers. So that happens over time. Okay, so we call it the right technical term here in supply chain literature is, of course, we call it collaboration. Collaboration is a relationship. So you call it collaboration. Collaboration is like you're working together, right? How you can work together because of the relationship that you have. Okay, so collaboration is a relationship between supply chain partners developed over a period of time. So that does not happen overnight, over a week, for a very short time period. You wouldn't be expecting a good collaboration with your suppliers unless you have worked with them for some quite longer time, which has demonstrated that they are the right suppliers to work with because they've been very collaborative. You have been, I mean, they've been very flexible, supporting you, and it has to be like the from you to the other side as well, which is called supply chain collaboration, right? So that is basically the relationship that you have with your suppliers. Right. Okay. So hope that is clear, right? If you have any doubts, you can always, raise your hand here. And then if you look at this, the connection between integration and collaboration, right? So here it says integration, which is this one. Integration is possible without collaboration, right? And integration is an enabler of collaboration. Now you let me know. Now these are my two statements here that I have like included here for me to understand your views of these two statements. You tell me now which one, do you agree with both of them, or do you agree with one of them, or do you not agree with any of them? You cannot be very silent and you tell me. Someone must answer here, otherwise I'm going to, call names. Tell me whether you agree with both of them or disagree with both of them, or are you going to agree with one of them or disagree with one of them? Let me know, please. Hurry up.
Uh,
Message done.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sankar.
So yes. So um, what I think, so the integration can be, I mean, it can be uh, enforced like um, forcefully, but the collaboration part is not something that you can do it forcefully. For example, integration can do through a system. Whether you like it or not, you can connect and then have that integration. But the collaboration part, I think I'm just thinking whether there's a human element in that, and then that willingness to do certain things. So I think these two statements are correct. I mean, I have never thought about it, but now when I'm thinking a little bit further, it seems, yeah, those are two different things.
Okay, right. Thank you for the answer. Anyone else with a different answer? Anyone else?
Hello, Miss.
Yes, please.
Adil.
Adil, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Both seem to be correct, ma'am. And
Uh-huh.
if you're looking at integration, I mean, is possible without collaboration. Yes. Uh, those tools can be integrated technically, even if people or teams do not actively collaborate. And if you look at the other process, then you can see, yeah, whether integration is an enabler of collaboration. Uh, when there is a collaboration, it's more easier for integration to happen. uh I mean, like, if you
What
look both
happens?
of the statements, yeah.
or the other way around?
Sorry?
Integration is now, you said that collaboration is
Yeah.
easier to happen to be integrated. You said like that. Oh, I'm asking whether it is that way or the other way around.
No, integration, I mean, through collaboration, proper integration could happen.
Oh, is it other way around? How could you have any collaboration with an unknown party? You get to know when you're integrated only, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I agree
Now,
with that.
yeah, integration is, of course, thank you very much for Adil and, of course, who was the other person who answered. I'm sorry, I'm not good at with, make it who answered before? Was it? Please.
Asanka.
Asanka. Thank you, Asanka. Thank you so much, both of you, for answering. And of course, both of them, you both were correct. Both statements are correct, of course, because if I elaborate on the same thing, I mean, yeah, so you also you provided your own interpretation of both of them. Now, for me to further elaborate on the same thing that you all have provided, integration is possible without collaboration. Now, remember, integration is the way that you work with other people. Okay, so you are setting, as you all both said, so it can be through system or it can be any other manual processes or whatever. So you're setting the processes, your systems, your procedures to work with other people, right? So that's how you connect your processes with other parties' processes. The moment that you have started to work with somebody, it has to be integrated. Okay. But at the moment that you are connected, now let's say that you are dealing with a new supplier, right? So then you have like studied and now you have like identified, working with them, how, if it is a new supplier, whether you're going to get them, connected to the system, whether the way their system is compatible with your system or however, you're trying to figure it out, and then that's it. And then you are placing the orders with the suppliers. So that's when you are starting to work with them. So therefore, integration happens first, right? So integration is therefore possible without collaboration. That is the first time that now remember, okay, now one of the good examples that I can give you is, of course, now in your class, right? So I don't know like whether you're meeting physically, since it is distance learning. I really do not know whether you're meeting or you have physical classes or which semester are you in now, but I'm very sure whatever it is, at least, even along with, all these, if it is only with the online lectures, still you may be having assignments and all. So the very first day that you met online or physical, I think you had your inauguration event. The day that you met, that is when you all get integrated, or even before that, when you applied and when you have selected and you have enrolled to the course, that's when you all integrated into the same system, even the lecturers and the other administrative parties of the universities and you as the students, and then you must have given portal to access and registration number and all that. That's when you people they have got like you as students, and then they have got integrated your way of working to their system. And it is because now even today's lecture, like, we agreed, like, because whenever you are free, whenever I can, and then all, like, we agreed, and that's when your process and my process got connected, where we are like now delivering a lecture because you have been able to make it. I have also been able to make it. So this is process integration. Okay, although it is a service delivery, right? So that happens to the Zoom link though. But before that, a communication process went on, and then we have agreed upon, and then that's where now we have operationally connected and delivering the service. So similarly, when you got enrolled into this particular program also, before that you were there everywhere, and how you got connected to the same system, same processes, because you all have selected and you have chosen this program, and you've been selected to do the program, and then you have enrolled to the same program. That was the integration point. Okay, and then hereafter, the same batch, same people, you're meeting them again and again, and then you have now, you at least, I mean, I don't know the level of relationship that you have, whether it is a very strong or very long relationship. However, compared to the first day that you all got to know each other, that was the first point where you all got integrated. But now, by now, you may have developed, certain relationship with everyone in the classroom. At least I mean, you may know them at least by name than before. So with the time, therefore, the integration happened first. And as you're working with the same team, as a result, over the time, as you get to interact with the same set of people, same set of suppliers, and the way that you have been working with them might have supported you to develop a good relationship, which can be called a collaboration. Right? So therefore, you can see integration is possible. Integrated. You all have been integrated to the same system, but you didn't know at least each other. Later on, integration has enabled y'all to develop a relationship. So therefore, integration is an enabler of collaboration, which happens even in the business world as well. Okay. Right. Now, looking further into integration, okay. Now, let's see how actually make a theme, it's supply chain. Right. So mode 2, mode 3, mode 4. There are 4 modes of integration. Okay, 4 modes of integration. 4 modes are the different ways that you can, what is integration now, interlinking your business processes. So there are 4 ways of interlinking your business processes in the supply chain or nowhere else, like in the supply chain. So if you look at mode 1, that is called internal integration, and mode 2, 3, 4, they are actually external integration. All right. So we start from, now internal integration is integration that's happening within your organization. Right? That is also very important because you have to make sure that the processes that are in your organization are very well connected and like they are very in operation seamlessly. You definitely have to make sure that, otherwise you cannot go ahead and work with other companies when the things are not in place inside your organization. All right. So then internal integration, mode 1, internal integration. So let's say okay, you have, now look at my diagram. I'll explain that as well before I move into explain all those modes of integration. Now here, so we have if you take any organization, they may have different divisions as well. In my example, however, I have taken sales, marketing, finance, logistics, human resource operations. They can be the different divisions or departments that you have in your organization. Okay, so I have taken one of them and elaborated, and that's how I've shown here. So every single organization is represented here. Okay, internal integration. And then we have external integration. So in my example, you can see this is the original equipment manufacturer. This organization supply chain has been demonstrated here. And then original equipment manufacturer is there. These are the component manufacturers who are providing components to you. Go ahead with your manufacturing operations. And then they are raw material supplier who is supplying raw material for this component manufacturer. And then once you are done with your finished products, that's where we are sending it to the freight forward, and through freight forward, it is to the retailer, right? Okay, so then look at these arrows. Don't get them mistaken, because now usually in a supply chain, now you can see, I think you can barely see my example that I drew here last time. So it's like you can see always your arrows have gone forward. They are forward arrows. But if you look at here, of course, I have drawn these arrows to show the direction of the integration, not it's therefore, that's what I'm telling you. Whenever you look at it later on, now when you are like, I balana make vibhagalangala balati better arrows gelatinigala balanepa balavu, this is not a supply chain that I have demonstrated here. Through my arrows, of course, what I'm trying to show here to you is the direction of the integration. So remember that, otherwise you'll get mistaken when you're going to study it later on for your exams and all. All right. Yeah, so that's about this particular example. Then we will now see what internal integration is. Okay. Now, whenever we take our organizations, you can see you have all these divisions in your organization. Although you have identified different divisions in your organization, it doesn't matter, they can work in isolation. Do you believe so? It cannot be because it's again, your organization. These are division of the same organization, and you have your plan, strategies, and everything for your entire organization. And it's actually growing or failing as an organization. So it's going, your strategies would help you to take your organization forward. And what strategies, when you say you have different functional strategies in your organization for you to be supported for your corporate strategy as an organization, what is your strategy? And for that, you have your functional strategies to be supportive. So they are your sales strategy, marketing strategy, finance strategy, logistics strategy, HR strategy, and all, right? So then you definitely have work among these teams, because now, for example, for marketing people, okay, so for marketing people to make their strategy, they have to get the help of like HR, people who are working in marketing department, marketing division. So you need to let them know how many people you want, what positions that are there, and also they have to let them know like what are the qualifications, knowledge, attitudes, competencies that they're expecting from those guys, and then that has to be coming from marketing to HR, and HR is sending, recruiting people on behalf of marketing and all. So that happens. And then the finance, like whatever that they do, they need finance. So likewise, you can see now even in logistics, okay, so you need sales data to be predicted, demand forecast and everything, to understand the quantity that they have to manufacture, and then where the locations are, to understand where the deliveries should be happen. So this is highly a very well connected way of working in your organization. So different departments cannot work alone. They have been separated just for the convenience of work, for otherwise it doesn't mean that they can, go a journey alone. It's always connected, and it's like a collective, complementary, like a journey where we are going as a one entity. So we need all these functions to be very well connected and balanced whenever we are running our business organization. So for that, you have to have your own way of integrating your different functions inside your organization, which we call internal integration. Are we okay with that, right? So let me also know then now how sales data goes to marketing, marketing data comes to sales, and then how like finance is approved, and how do you know that it is approved, how you can now spend and all, like all these information from one division to another must be flowed without any interruption, without any delay, and without any error as well. It has to be a system where you all can log in and work and can work there. So what usually we do in our organizations nowadays, earlier that happened manually, where things got delayed and misplaced, and then again you'll have to see when something is getting delayed, only you get to know, okay, so this has not gone to there, like then you're trying your rectifying actions. But when you want to happen this in a proper, like an effective, error-free, faster way, what actually we have in our organization now in order to ensure the internal integration? Yes, we are working through what? All this happened through now in your fill in the blanks. In your what? Yes, Adil? In your? Asank, you talked about the system last time, didn't you? Asank? Okay, very උත්තරයක් දුන්නොත් ඒ මොන්සේ මල්ල ගන්නවනේ. Yes, Asank?
Yes.
You talked about a system last time, didn't you? When in your
Yeah.
previous answer. So what is that
Yeah.
system that you have in organizations?
ERP.
Yeah, ERP systems, of course, right? So you have your own ERP, and that is through what you are connected now, right? Earlier it was not like that. So you may have to send, you may have to find your own way of like sending record information about the other department, and you really do not know what's happening in other department, and the decisions that you're making this side must be conflicting with the other divisions decisions. Therefore, right, there can be lots of issues like that, and then things got stuck. You'll have to go and troubleshoot. But now those things would not happen whenever your systems right, properly connected in one single platform where everyone can see what's happening, what's not happening, what's there, what is not there, what are your inventory levels, what are your finance levels, and everything, what is required from you by the other different other divisions, and then you can approve, you can process. So yeah, so that's happened now with your ERP system, so quite seamlessly, which is actually that is your internal integration. Is it clear?
Yes, madam.
Okay, right, nice. Yeah, so let me talk more about the internal integration and go back to external integration modes. Yeah, so then if you look at internal integration, since we already know what it is now, I'm not going to explain it, but why you do that? Because you first have to have your internal integration before you're going to connect your systems with other organization systems. You must ensure that it is within the organization that happens. That does happen without any issue. All right. So that in that way, it will improve your effectiveness, efficiency of your operations. All right. And also, these are some of the benefits that will give you, as a result of like a proper internal integration. These are some of the benefits that it will give you. So non-value adding is minimized. Hope you know what is it non-value adding, because now if I go back to my previous lesson, I told you. So we are trying to our purpose, if you look at the purpose of a supply chain, the general objective of a supply chain is to increase the value creation for the final customer. That's what we are trying always. That's our prime objective. That's what we are trying to do. So whenever we take each of those organizations in our supply chain, and if you elaborate them to a level where you can see the activities that each organization is performing, we are trying our best through everything that we do to create value for the customers. All right, that's why we were able to see value chain on the top of supply chain. And if you can remember the stuff that I taught you last time. So value chain can be seen on the top of the supply chain. Why? Because you are trying to everything that you're doing in your supply chain, the purpose is to do the right thing. Whenever what you are supposed to do, it will create value. But whenever you go wrong, whenever you do not do your work right, you then make mistakes. And then when you have made mistakes, when we are trying to rectify them, it costs more time, more resources. With that way only, you'll be now able to create value. That will actually at a higher cost, because it was not the right first time quality. I don't know whether you can understand me. Okay. So value creation is that now whenever you do the right thing at the right time, that's the right thing to do. So when you do the right thing, value will be created, because throughout all the activities that you're doing in a supply chain, you're creating value. So for you to create value, you do the right thing. I mean, whenever you have done a mistake, you can rectify them, but then it's at a higher cost. Production processing, so then now you are trying to fix that product. But earlier function that you did with the mistake was not adding value, because it didn't give you the right product, right? Because it was not the right way of doing that. But you have done something which is wrong. Now you have identified the defect and you are trying to rectify it. Then the second time that it was operated only, that it was executed only, value was created. The right product came. So then the earlier incident was a waste where you only incurred cost, but it didn't add any value. So those kinds of non-value adding activities can be actually minimized whenever you have a proper integrated internal operating system. Those kind of non-value adding can be minimized. Right? And then costs are reduced. Costs are reduced. Yes, if we saw that, cost is again going to be reduced, because there won't be second or third time of the repetitive action when you can do that for the first time, because first the correct information has been shared and correct, and your raw materials must have come at the right time and all. So costs are also therefore reduced. Lead times are reduced, because when the mistakes are gone, the time that you're spending for mistakes are now reduced. Therefore, lead time can also be reduced. Service quality can be improved, because we are trying our best to improve the quality of the product, as well as we are trying to deliver the product on time to the market. Therefore, customers would be happier. And then because our quality at the same time has also been improved. Most importantly, functional silos are reduced, because functional silo is actually Now if it is marketing, you know what's happening in my marketing function. I really do not know what's happening in other function. I don't even care. All right. So functional silos that could be minimized because you always get to see what's happening in other departments, whatever the way that they are working, how it would be affecting on the decision making of your decision, and how my way of working would be affecting on the other, how these can be quite collaboratively linked and together make decisions can be seen when you're working together in a system. So therefore, functional silos are reduced because you never can, business organization can never succeed with functional silos because you have set up all those functions because you need all of those functions to your organization, not only, one or two of them. So therefore, that thinking level must be established with the employees to see the cross-functional connection and the importance of working together, not as functional silos. One more thing about the same thing, and then we'll go back to those external integration modes. Okay. Now, in order to improve your internal integration, other than everything that I have now discussed about it, our organizational structures are also playing a bigger role there. Okay, organizational structures. Now, there can be many, I'm sure that you have learned management somewhere before in some other, courses that you have done. There, when we were talking about other basic management functions like, planning, organizing, leading, motivating, monitoring, controlling, those things. So when at the second function, which is actually organizing, that is when you are like developing the right organizational structures for your company, for your organization, because at the planning process, what you do is you are identifying the goals and the objectives, mission and everything for your organization. And then at the organization process, you are actually organizing resources to allocate to those particular plans. And that way we are converting them to a strategy. All right. So then that is where when we identify the organizational structures as well. Okay. Now, when you look at them, these are some of the common. That's why I have selected. I have mentioned them as generic organization structures. So they are generic organization structures. So you have functional organization. There can be many more, but I have taken basic generic organization structures. That is functional, matrix, product or process-oriented organization. All right. Now, if you look at the first one, the first functional organization. Now, why I'm explaining about functional, these organizational structures now, because depending on which structure that you have adopted in your organization, level of integration, internal integration would be changed, would be different. So that's why I'm explaining these organizational structures. Let's see how these organizational structures are actually supporting in developing a very good integration internally in your organization. Right. So when you take functional organization, now look at this one, first one. So there are functions, different functions here. Finance, HR, marketing, sales, logistics, and operations. And these are different functions in this particular organization. And you can also see that they are not connected, connected each other, at all. I mean, they are not connected at all. They are just very independent divisions where they work on their own, and you don't see any information processing, backward or forward. It's just, like very straight bars where you can't see any links between these different organizational functions. The very first one, functional organization. Right? So then, okay, now let's see which one is going to be the most effective one for our for you to ensure and achieve, an increased level of integration. Okay, so anyway, this is functional organization. And then matrix organization. Now look at matrix organization. Now you can see all those operations are there. And earlier, yeah, the functional organization were also there, but they were very inactive, where you can see, separate operations in them. You can't see that they're very well linked, among the divisions. That can't be seen here. But in the matrix organization, you can see, okay, all the divisions are there at the same time. When you do the product X go through all those divisions. Y goes through, Z goes through. And that's how matrix organization has been developed. So you had all these, like operations, all those functional branches in the organization. But at the same time, these products are also going through all these functions, because we know whenever we are making a product, you need the service of operations. So it's everyone's. And the product wise it is also the same thing. So this is actually, we call this kind of an organization structure matrix organization. And the last one, product or process oriented organization. Product is it. There you can see now product exists there, and all the functions that are related to products exist here. Y is similarly here, it is also here, right? And what you can now, if you look at product X, yes, operation logistics sales and everything that needs this particular customer needs is at, or quite close by, or at one place where you can have everything together. So that's product X division. This is product Y division, product Z division. So product Z division, know what operation it needs for product Z, logistic requirements, sales, how you do, HR, finance, and everything for each product is actually the way that it is organized here. Right, so these are the three generic organization structures. And out of them, let me know, according to your thinking, according to the way that you think, what would be the ideal organization structure for you to improve your internal integration. Among these three.
Maybe the matrix organization.
Okay, thank you. Any other answer?
Metric is a good one. Process orientation is good, miss. For my
Processor product oriented.
yes.
Also, is this Adil?
Yes.
Okay, right. Thank you for both answers given by you. Right, now, few of you said that it is matrix, and you said that it is a product or process-oriented organization. Now, when you look at this product or process-oriented organization, product X, if you look at that, now let's say that we have okay, we have one factory. In that factory, we do product X, Y, Z, go all three products in there. So when product X is quite independent from Y and Z, but still when this production is happening at the same factory, now let's say the product has been booking the capacity, and then but product X has been doing that, and Y also doing that alone, and Z also doing that, on its own. But because all the operations and everything, that's separately being handled. So if you look at operations alone, what's happening with operations with regard to X and Y, Z cannot be seen at one single central focus. What could happen is, whatever that they are doing there could be overlapping with them, So because that integration between the product is not there, although they are happening in the same factory. Whenever they share resources for X and Y, Z, that nice resource allocation and in an organized way and effective way would not happen, because they really do not know what's happening in other two product divisions. They only know their own division, although that is cross-functional. Between the departments, between the factories or whatever, they are not, that's been not maintained. Now, did you get that, Adil?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, so in that case, of course, because matrix can be, one of the best way of doing that, because you can see everything in the same, maybe in the system or wherever it can be seen what's happening with X and Y, Z in terms of all these operations. All other two products can also be seen. So therefore, it's like a full clear picture of the whole organization, what's happening there, and the decision making can be effective. Right decision can be made at the right time, and that way you will be able to reduce all those non-value-adding activities, cost, unnecessary cost, expenditures, and then of course so many other things that we discussed earlier. All right. Okay. that I also wanted to mention. Right, so then I'm going back to here. That was all about internal integration. Okay, so what is internal integration, how you can do that, and what is the importance of it, what benefits it gives you. And then again, what would be in terms of the organization structure, if you can have like a proper matrix kind of organization. The organization structure itself supporting, I mean, it is actually encouraged or it's inbuilt, because you cannot have like a matrix kind of an organization structure without properly identify those information linkages inside the organization. So that was the whole point. Right, okay. And then with that, we are moving to external integration to understand what are external integration modes. Okay. Now there you can see 3 modes here. Okay. Okay. You got right, 21 is the right, okay. So mode 3, mode 2, 3, 4. Right, so the external modes. Now I think you know downstream of a supply chain, upstream of a supply chain, those were already explained by me and maybe other lecturers as well. Yeah. So then now let's take the first mode, backward integration. Backward integration. Right now you can see what backward now don't get mixed up with all those other integrations that you have learned under Porter's what was it? This is from marketing point of view. That's different. Backward integration, they are different. Here we are referring to the process alignment. Okay. General backward forward integration, you know, that is different to this. This is actually backward integration, backward integration. This company, okay, in my example, this company, the retailer company is trying to align its processes with the business processes of the freight forwarders. Now you must at least let me know, you must book my vessels, you know, you buy my space, like, you know, 7 days before you have to confirm. And also that's how this company works. නැත්තම් මෙයා මෑත් එක්ක වැඩ කරනකොට ඩිසයිඩ් කරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඉතින් මේ විදිහට මගේ processes ටික මම හදා ගන්න ඕනේ. So that's kind of like backward integration. මොකද ඒ කියන්නේ මගේ immediate backward member ගේ විදිහට මගේ processes align කරන එක තමයි backward integration. Okay, so that is called backward integration. And the forward integration is the opposite of that. You are trying to align your processes with, you know, let's say that this component manufacturer is implementing JIT and I'm the supplier. So then I'm trying my process to be aligned with my customer's processes. Forward member, immediate forward members process. I am trying to align my process with my immediate forward members processes. So therefore that is called forward integration, right? So the backward integration happens if you're trying to do that with the backward member, and this is with the forward member, immediate forward member, and what you actually need is not only backward or forward alone, but both of them together. So therefore, whenever you're trying to align your processes with backward and the forward members, of course, you'll have like a properly integrated supply chain. Okay, so that's called integration, mode 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing is this can happen. I mean, now if it is backward integration, it can be with any, you know, 2 parties that are like together, closer to each other. It can happen. So it's not always this company with this company, even freight forward with when this manufacturer is trying to align with the freight forwarders, that's also can be backward integration. Okay, so it can be with any party, both backward and forward integration. And whenever any company is trying to be aligned with your backward and the forward, as you can see, that is forward and backward integration. Are we okay with that? Right. Okay. Now that I have already explained to you all these different modes of integration. And then now I'm trying to tell you like with what modes, of course, you can do external integration. So this, I believe that you have heard of this EDI, electronic data interchange, where it is, I mean, that we use now. Now you have your system and your suppliers have their system, but how do you connect with this, automatic process integration API now, basically, that is very much used now. And then EDI, electronic data interchange, is like, that is mostly about like similar formats of the documents that you're using in organizations. Now, for example, the most common business documents, invoices, purchase orders. So if my purchase order and my, let's say the companies that I'm working with is not compatible, is anyway not compatible. So therefore you have to find a way like way of, I mean, now whenever like, okay, let me take this example. Now, when you take your company and your suppliers company, invoice formats are different. හරිද? එතකොට දැන් මගේ ඉන්වොයිස් එක වෙනස්, එයාගේ ඉන්වොයිස් එකකින් වෙනස් වෙනකොට මම මගේ යවන ඉන්වොයිස් ෆෝමැට් එකට එයාගේ සිස්ටම් එකේ ඉන්වොයිස් ෆෝමැට් එක ගන්නෙ නැහැ. That can happen the other way around as well. So then some supply chain members come to an agreement to use these common structures for those business documents. And when you're designing those common structures, one common free of charge program can be like, what do you call it? Is actually Edifact. Edifact, can you please search it later on? Edifact is like it's United Nations practice, and their guidelines can be used free of charge. So if you agree that you're going to apply Edifact in your with your supply chain members, they will all use the same formats. All those business documents is coming in the same format, which will be very easier for your system to get those data in without any issue. So that is called EDI. So EDI developers are there, probably like ERP developers. They do EDI solutions as well. Like this, Oracle and all, they also do EDI solutions as well. But otherwise, you can have your customized softwares with the help of those companies. So otherwise, there are free versions as well. But most people are actually using free versions because there can be always changes of suppliers, and one supplier can come and go, and then if you have developed these customized systems, the new supplier wouldn't be having that. So in order to reduce those errors, whenever you have developed a customized EDI system for you, if people leave, whenever people leave, and that would be very difficult with another set of new employees then. So therefore, I mean, usually you do not, mostly it is like whatever that like Edifact or any other free kind of thing that they use, because it is anyone can very easily adapt that. Rather, you are getting into a customized version of that. That is EDI. And Keiritsu is another strategy that it supports external integration. That is actually a strategy. I mean, it is quite an old strategy that is coming from around 1930. So like Keiritsu, it's coming from Japanese banking industry, where they highlight the importance of getting your process integrated with your immediate backward member, and it passed upstream of your supply chain. You're starting now, see, if I'm the manufacturer, I'm starting with my supplier, I'm trying to integrate my processes with my immediate backward member. That is what Keiritsu says. And then Keiritsu also says, passed it upstream. If I have tier 2 suppliers, now I have integrated by following Keiritsu. If I have a very good relationship with the tier 1 supplier, then the tier 1 supplier should try to align its processes with the other, or maybe supplier, let's say. Okay, so that way entire supply chain can be streamlined with the time. That's what it says. Earlier, it was only focused on the upstream suppliers, but now it is with all the members that we have in our supply chains. Okay, so when you start with your immediate backward member and when that is passed upstream, same practice opposite you can see that finally your entire supply chain can be actually very well integrated with Keiretsu itself. Right, so please go through them. Yeah, and now I'm coming to it. So that's all about integration, Lamai. The integration is our relationship when we already discussed. In our previous slides, we saw that integration enables collaboration. We understood that. Now I will tell you a bit about collaboration in the interest of time as well. So how many? Yeah, so we got quite a few slides, but I'll try my best. The most importantly, what you got to know is when it comes to collaboration. So the collaboration will, you can ensure that collaboration, or you have like very collaborative relationship with the suppliers. You will be able to come to that conclusion whenever we have been able to meet supply chain collaboration principles. Okay, supply chain collaboration principles. So what are these principles? Now I would say collaboration is dependent on the provision of mutual benefit. Now, okay, that be a very simple example. Like a real day-to-day life. Let's say that you have a friend. Okay, so you have a friend. And then whenever you are in a trouble, you need, this, you need to, you need your best friends support to listen to you, to console you, because you are in a trouble. So then you call that person and say, okay, I want to meet you, I want to see you. So that person is also very nice, and he or she says, okay, let's meet, this day, and I'll be able to listen to you, don't worry. So of course, then you both meet and, okay, right. And then whenever that person needs you, if that person cannot find you, or at least if you're not picking the phone and all, so then that person might start to think twice whether I'm having the right friend with you, because I've been helping him or her when he wanted, but now when I want, I don't get the same level of the response or same help. So that is when a relationship wouldn't be continuing to the future whenever they are not mutually benefited. Okay, so that's why the first principle of collaboration is mutual benefit. So it's same in the business world as well. Suppliers would not continue the relationship with you if they haven't got any benefit in return. Okay, right? So therefore, now even in your husband and wife relationships, and if you are married, of course, you can see, so the relationship would be, not work out very well. So finally there can be, separations and all. Of course, it is because of because it's if it is a relationship, it's a legally bounded or whatever it is existing based on the principle of mutual benefit. When the පැත්තට උදව් කරගන්න ඕන. එහෙම වුණොත් තමයි මේක යන්නේ ඉස්සරහට. ඒක mere emotional relationship එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, business relationship එකක්, it can be anything, but the reality is like these relationships would be continuing to the future whenever both parties are benefited, but otherwise it will not. Whenever you see that you've been misused, you've been opportunistically used, it's only you who have been like providing support to the other party, but in turn you haven't got anything. So then you can see it's not a real relationship. In the business also it's like that. So whenever you don't see that it is not for mutual benefit, that is going to be, discontinued. So therefore the first principle is mutual benefit. And then how can you, this mutual benefit will entirely be depending on the trust that you have on the other side. Isn't it, right? Now, when I have been very good for somebody, I've been very good to that person because I trust that person to be as good as me when I want that person. Okay? So the trust had made you to behave in a certain way whenever we are continuing with the relationship. the trust that we have on the other side, on the other person, had made us to behave in a certain way, thinking, assuming that the other party will also behave in the same way whenever I need that person's support or help. Did you get me? So which is called trust. So then it is mutual benefit, but whether you will be able to get mutual benefit or not will be depending on the trust. Therefore, trust has to play a bigger role there. Trust becomes an issue. Trust is main thing that we must develop in our business relationships as well. Therefore, in the supply chain relationship literature, it clearly says that you need to, work with this trust is one of the important component here. Right, so if you look at this particular picture, why have we included that picture here? Because please Google search this picture. The name of the picture is Launcher Topper Skycapper. Hari, make it purpose why I brought this picture here to show you how important trust is for the mutual benefit. This is actually a real picture. No one knows who have taken this picture, but it is there. This picture has been taken, a real picture, when there is like like this department store in the New York City. We call these buildings skyscrapers because they're very tall buildings. And this was built in New York City. Make a search, you'll get those information in the Google. So this has been taken when that particular building was constructing, right? So this, now there you can see that they're sitting on a steel bar without any hesitation, without any worry. They have like smiley faces and they're taking lunch. So if they could not trust each other, they wouldn't be able to sit like this next to each other in such a risky place. It's already more than 850 feet high from the ground. But still you can see that they're enjoying their lunch with no fear, right? Because all are sitting, next to each other because it's a trust they have. But otherwise, if they're not trusting each other, they cannot do like that. Otherwise, if they may have to, they may not be able to take lunch this way. They may have to go down again, take their lunch, come back, So they have saved that time and they've been able to enjoy their lunch time. So that's mutually beneficial for everyone. Just because of they've been able to trust each other, they have been able to do that. That was my point why I took picture here, right? To demonstrate how important trust in getting mutual benefits. Yeah. This is again, let's give me about 5 or more minutes. I'll be able to finish this lesson. This is called prisoner's dilemma, which is coming from Nash game theory. Okay, Nash game theory now. Subject every subject has been developed, borrowing concepts from other disciplines, other theories, 8 interdisciplinary, connections. Because now if you look at subjects කියලා හැදෙන්නේ මේ අපේ ලෝකයේ අපේ යන විදිහත් එක්ක. හරි? ලෝකෙ සිද්ධ වෙන දේවල් we call them phenomenon. That's why in Finland that is phenomenological based problem solving. එහෙම තමයි ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ රටේ teaching හැදලා තියෙන්නේ. මොකද phenomenon එකක් now we are facing, now once we become adults, it's your personal or official, we are day-to-day basis, we are solving problems. A problem is connected to interdisciplinary nature, right? It is not always, you need some bit of mathematical knowledge, you need a bit of emotional, that's why we talk about emotional intelligence and all. You also need your intellectual capacity must be there. So it's a result of like an interdisciplinary contribution to that, and they'll be able to solve the problem properly. එහෙමනම් මේ සබ්ජෙක්ට්ස් උත් මේ වගේ තමයි හැදලා තියෙනවා. මම දැන් එක පැත්තකට අපි අරගෙන අපි ෆයිනෑන්ස් කියලා ගත්තට ෆයිනෑන්ස් කියන එක තනියෙන් වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ ප්‍රශ්නයකදී. අපි ප්‍රශ්නයක් විසඳන්න ගිහම අපිට we need other theoretical knowledge as well from other disciplines. So that way, like if you look at all these subjects, you will be able to see that we have been borrowing from other disciplines, No one had sit together and then, okay, I'm going to develop supply chain subject now. So they've been like evolving with the time naturally, at its own phase. And then we have been now around 1982, we were able to call this supply chain management accidentally, those are long histories though. However, Nash game theory is one of the theories that we have in supply chain we use to understand this, the importance of the trust to gain mutual benefits. Okay. So in Nash game theory, there is like a scenario called prisoner's dilemma, And this is it. I'll very briefly tell you about it. I'll take to this particular matrix to but this is easier for me with the time. So then, sorry, I may have to go back to before. So another you and your partner committed to a crime. This is a scenario that is coming in the Nash game theory. Now you have like committed to a crime, and then police detective officer, right? So these are your terms, right? So you'll be questioned. Of course, you know that they are not going to be questioned together. They'll be questioned separately because they'll be able to fabricate the stories when you listen. When you listen what other person say, when other person sees what you say. So therefore, they are always being questioned separately. So now when you do that, these four terms, four options are given to each of them. Now these are the four options. If you confess, or at the keyword, right? If you confess, but your partner doesn't, or the partner kivinetta. Now, usually, for this kind of a crime, the usual punishment is 10-year sentence. You will be sent to jail, for 10 years. That is a normal punishment. But depending on how you're going to be collaborate, these options will be different. That's what it says here. If you confess, just because you told the truth, your partner gets the full 10-year sentence for committing the crime, means you get only 2 years because you were collaborating by telling the truth. If you confess, you only get 2 years, your partner will get 10 years. If you don't confess, but your partner does, now tables are, turn around, then partner will get 2 years and you will get 10 years. If you both confess, it will come to 5 years of reduced years for both of you. Then if neither of you confess, you both are free people. Right. Now you tell me how difficult it is. Now, when you've been like interviewed separately, how difficult it will be for you to make the decision now, because you always be able to trust your partner whenever, because the success of the result or what punishment that you will get. And if you look at these four options, okay, you tell me what would be the best option among these four? If I go to there, what would be the best option here? Yeah, if you're running out of time, what would be the best option?
Don't confess.
Don't. Yeah, don't confess. Okay, ethical side ගැන කතා කරන්න එන්න එපා ළමයා හොඳේ. Ethically wrong, වැරද්දක් කරලා වැරදි නෑ කියලා කරන ethical wrong, but you're looking at now trust element. ඒ කියන්නේ බොරුව මං කියන බොරුවම මගේ යාළුවත් කියයි කියන තැන තියෙන trust එක ගැන මම මේ කියන්නේ හොඳේ. It's only trust. ඒකට තමයි වෙන පන්තිවල කියන එහෙම හොඳ නෑ නේද මම වැරදි කළා. ඒවා හරි ඒවා වෙන ප්‍රශ්න ඒවා වෙන්න බැරිලු. But I'm just taking, trust here. When I can trust my partner, now for me to take such a risk, when I have committed a crime, I'm going to say, no, I haven't done it. Look at the risk. Okay, but for you to take that risk, right? I'm very sure that my other partner will also say the same thing. The trust that you have. So the more the trust that you have, the more the mutually both are benefited. That's my point here. My anyway, Professor demonstrate how important the trust that you have in bringing mutual benefits, which will be, turning into a sustainable relationship. All right? Right. Okay. Play ඇති හිතනවා, right? And this is just a make කොහොමද evolved. If you look at collaboration now, it has come through a long way. First, it was open market negotiation where we didn't have any kind of relationship. Negotiation is a very basic type of business transaction where you are not trying to, every time it will be different supply based on the price. So it's like price-based discussion, adversarial relationship. You can always call it a relationship. You can still call it a relationship. Because why? It is adversarial relationship, but not healthy relationship, right? Because I'm trying to get my price reduced. My supply is not trying to reduce the price because supply is trying to right? So then open market negotiation is I'm trying to get my price reduced and supply is not trying to reduce because supply wants to maximize supply's profit. I want to maximize my profit. It's a negotiation, open market negotiation. But that's the first point of collaboration, like building up a relationship. It was like a cooperation. They identify, okay, it's all whenever it is a different supply based on the price, you are not actually getting the right benefit of collaboration and everything. Therefore, the next stage was like selecting few suppliers and then working with them only based on the long-term contracts by establishing long-term contracts. So that is called cooperation level, open market negotiation to cooperation. Instead of working with different suppliers every time, now they have identified few good suppliers based on certain criteria and then long-term contracts with them and you are dealing only with them. So that stage was called cooperation. And then the coordination. Coordination එකට එනකොට මෙතනින් එහාට ගිහලා scope එක වැඩි වෙලා. ඒ කියන්නේ like an expanded scope. Like now, earlier it was just for buying products, but now not only for buying products, right? So for some other processes with okay, so now when it comes to coordination level එකට එනකොට අපි ඊට වඩා expand කරනවා. අපි why you are dealing with suppliers, not only for buying products, but also I believe that you know about vendor managed inventory, where you give the entire control to the supplier to manage your inventory throughout your supply chain. The supplying method, your suppliers are not only sending you the goods, you are, I mean, it's more than that. More than that, suppliers are giving more service than that, and you have given that access. Now you need to give access to your systems for the suppliers to get to know what are your now inventory levels, and whenever they are going down, supplier himself is replenishing my products. Vendor VMI, vendor managed inventory, vendor is the supplier, vendor is managing my inventory. I really do not have to worry. I have given all those required access to my supplier because I trust them, and they'll do entire inventory replenishment function throughout my supply chain. So therefore, your suppliers are not only providing goods to you, raw materials to you, but also does this inventory replenishment throughout your supply chain as well. So that's what I'm telling. So it's your relationship has gone beyond just buying products with them. The scope of the relationship is getting broadened. Why? Because you trust them. So that part is called coordination. And collaboration is actually, it's going beyond, inventory replenishment and all. Like, you got together to integrate your supply chain. You are planning together, whenever you are making new products and all, you get the suppliers help and you plan together market information. And then how do you do proper demand forecast throughout the supply chain? Because demand forecasts are highly going wrong whenever you don't get access to the right markets and all. But throughout the supply chain with the collaboration, you do them. And you share your technology, sharing supplier development, all you may have heard of them. So that has gone, to such an advanced level of collaboration. But remember, the principle is that collaboration, which is relationship, will always depending on how far you get mutual benefits and mutual, I mean, the gravity of the mutual relationship, mutual benefits will be again based on, the trust that you have on the other party. Finally, this one, supply development, whenever we talk about supply chain collaboration methods, I think I already talked to you about Keiritsu. I explained to you Keiritsu as an integration method. It is again can be collaboration as well, because whenever it is properly integrated, it is leading to a collaborative level. Okay. මේක තමයි මට දැන් කියලා දෙන්න ඕන aggregate procurement කියන එක. Aggregate procurement එකේදී අපි aggregate procurement කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි. Now I'll basically I'll explain that. So before you're doing aggregated procurement, which is a procurement strategy to improve relationship between the suppliers. Okay, right. So how can you do that is by reducing the competitiveness among the suppliers. Now, when you have a supplier base, if the suppliers in the supplier base are competing each other, you wouldn't be getting the right output from them. Your expected quality, price, and everything wouldn't be resulting from them because they are fighting each other, because they are trying to win my order. How that could happen? Whenever I'm selecting the supplier purely based on the price, that could happen. So therefore, before you're going for aggregated procurement, you definitely have to rationalize your supply base. What do you mean by rationalize? The Facebook එකේ ඉන්නවනම් මිනිස්සු 5000 උන් ජීවිතේට දැකලත් නැත්නම් දැකලා නැති උන් අයින් කළා දන්න උන් ටික ඉතුරු කරගන්නවා වගේ වැඩක් මේක. Why? Because when the list become longer, you really do not have any idea මෙයා කවුද අරයා කවුද එහෙම නැතුව you are now rationalizing. You are reducing the number of suppliers. Rationalizing is that you're reducing the number of suppliers and you're limiting it to a workable, like a supplier base whom you know quite clearly, and then based on the trust and the past performance and everything, reliability, credibility, problem solving, mutual understanding, based on everything. Now you are selecting the very good, the best suppliers for each product. Supplier-based rationalization is that. And then you feed all this information into the software about suppliers, traits and characteristics and everything into the software. And whenever you get an order, like you are feeding that information to the software, and it will tell you, okay, now it is 5,000 order, but don't give it for entire 5,000 to one person. Like in order to reduce the risk, you have like similar suppliers, because I have now selected suppliers not only based on the price, but reliability, credibility, on-time delivery, how supportive they have been in problem solving. එතකොට මට මේ එක products වලට එනකොට ළමයි මට හැම වෙලෙම price එකටම suppliers තෝරන්න නැති products තියෙනවා. The product එකේ nature එකත් එක්ක I'm going for the right category of suppliers, and then I'm going to divide it among usually it tells you, okay, this 5,000 orders should be divided between these suppliers. This is how the orders should be placed කියලා එයා අපිට කියනවා. එතකොට අපේ risk එකත් අඩු වෙනවා. All the suppliers are happy because they always get continuous orders. It's not that the entire order is going to a single supplier. Then all other suppliers are not happy in that case. It is not like that. They will get continuous orders, more frequent orders, small but frequent orders, maybe the next order can be given to another set of suppliers, and then, so however, the continuous orders will be received by us to the suppliers. Suppliers will also be very happy because they have like a proper regular customer for them. And for us, risk is minimized because you always can go ahead with your production schedule, because if one supply gets delayed, other people are there for you to support while you figure out the delayed order and all. So that's how it is mutually beneficial, and in that way it will go ahead as a sustainable relationship with the supplier. So that's how aggregated procurement method. I am sure that you have studied them in other subjects as well. Aggregated procurement method actually have helped you to, I'm looking at it, in a different way, how it had helped you to develop the suppliers, the collaboration between the suppliers. Okay, so I know that I went quite fast in the interest of time. Yeah, so that's it. And if you have any questions, I can spend a few more minutes, doesn't matter. Let me know whether you've got any questions or whether you were able to understand, because I went quite fast towards the latter part of the lesson. Are we okay? Were you able to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. All good.
Okay, thank you very much. And sorry that I went quite fast. This is lots of stuff, within 3 hours. It's quite difficult to cover. All right, thank you very much. Then I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you so much for joining.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.